Hello, welcome. It is Monday, March 11, 2019 at 7 p.m. Downers Grove Village Hall. Melissa, will you please call roll?
Member Doshi.
Here.
Member Harris.
Here.
Member Hughes.
Here.
Member Miller.
Here.
Member Samanti.
Here.
Member Siegel.
Here.
Member Purcell.
Here. So first on tonight's agenda is a public hearing on the proposal to conduct school activities on Casimir Pulaski Day, Lincoln's birthday, and Veterans Day. At this time, I declare the hearing open to allow members of the audience to comment on this topic. Anyone wishing to be heard, please stand, state your name, attendance area, and if any, for the record. There being no comments, I declare this hearing closed at 7:03 p.m. So now we will move on to, this is the regular monthly meeting of the Downers Grove Grade School District 58 Board of Education, Monday, March 11, 2019, at 6:04 p.m. at the Downers Grove Village Hall. Melissa, will you please call roll?
It's actually
7:04, sorry.
Member Doshi.
Here.
Member Harris.
Here.
Member Hughes.
Here.
Member Miller.
Here.
Member Samanti.
Here.
Member Siegel.
Here.
Member Purcell.
Here. We'll start tonight with Hillcrest School and Principal Zepka.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having us. Good evening. I'm thrilled to introduce you. This is Jennifer Gormatsky. She is one of our supervisors for student council. Dr. Sue Anderson couldn't be here this evening. We have 6 students who are going to be presenting to you this evening. Jen, go ahead, guys.
So should we start with a pledge?
They're introducing themselves very
Oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Evan Kuntz, and I'm one of the co-presidents of this year's Hillcrest Student Council. I'm Ian Renner, and I'm the other co-president. The two of us lead meetings and oversee all Spirit projects and Spirit Day plans. I'm Sophia Galasso, and I'm the vice president of service. I help plan and supervise all of our school service projects. I'm Mia Hess, and I'm the vice president of Spirit. I help plan and develop all the Spirit Days at Hillcrest School. My name is Lydia Van Bergen, and I'm the clerical secretary of the Hillcrest Student Council. I take attendance and notes at all meetings. I also take pictures of student council events and Spirit Days. I'm Janet Coulibaly, and I'm the recording secretary. I also take notes at all meetings, write summaries of what we discussed, and post this information for members to review. I take pictures of student council events and Spirit Days too. Now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we would like to provide some highlights of student council projects and activities we have done so far, as well as share some big plans we've had for the rest of this school year. Our winter service project was to collect aluminum tabs for around the Fountain House charities of Chicago. The PopTab program helps provide housing and support services to families of children enrolled through major medical procedures. As a school, we collected the tabs to open soda, soup, and other aluminum cans. To kick off the PopTab service, we had a Spirit Day. On Logo Day, we encouraged students to wear a variety of logos and to think about which logos and brands have products with tags on them. Many students and teachers had some pretty creative ideas. This helped to spread the word about our service project. Hillcrest was able to collect 27 pounds of PopTabs for the Ronald McDonald House. What great spirit! This year, Student Council also sponsored Classroom Day. Each class decided on its own special theme and came to school just like it. From classrooms full of superheroes, UV and book characters, featured theater options, sport stars, and more, there was terrific participation among the students and staff with some very interesting and creative classroom projects. During the next few weeks, we will be promoting World Down Syndrome Day on March 21st. We will encourage students to wear blue and yellow and crazy colored socks to celebrate uniqueness, acceptance, and the fact differences make us great. Student Council also plans to sell spirit sticks during the spring to help raise money for the Hillcrest PTA. Our big upcoming all-school service project, Lots of Love.
The Hillcrest Student Council is looking forward to helping our school raise money this spring for the Lots of Love organization. This idea was developed and started by 6th grade teachers, Mr. Smith and Miss Murphy. Lots of Love is an organization with headquarters here in Downers Grove that helps provide solar to the nearly 1 billion people in our world who do not have electricity. These lamps are much safer and less expensive than the kerosene-powered light sources many countries have. Each lamp costs about $50 and provides a safe source of rechargeable light for families.
Last week, we kicked off this fundraiser during an all-school meeting about teamwork and cooperation. Each grade level worked together to help develop a fundraising goal. Classes also discussed ways that they could raise money for this valuable cause. Student council members are working on designing fundraising t-shirts, and the school is split to keep track of donations. As a school, we plan to collect money for Lots of Love for people. We are very excited to help classrooms reach their fundraising goals and help supply a safe source of light for communities in need.
These are just a few of our student council highlights from the year. We look forward to continuing to promote service, kindness, and spirit at our school. Thank you for your time and inviting us to speak tonight.
Next up, we have one of our PTA co-presidents, Jennifer Zolhorst, who's going to be sharing a bit. Becky Bossart is our other co-president who could not be here this evening.
Thank you for having Hillcrest here tonight to feature what we do. The Hillcrest PTA strives to make a positive impact in the lives of students, parents, and teachers. And we do this through providing enrichment programs and creating a sense of community and, of course, fundraising. These are just a couple of the enrichment programs that the PTA offers throughout the year. One of the big ones that is offered at many schools is Partner in Art, where we bring in parents to work on hands-on art throughout the classrooms. We also offer school assemblies. Our most recent, we brought in a company called Historical Perspectives, who acted out the life of Martin Luther King, and the kids had an engaging discussion back in the classrooms after that. We also are so lucky to be able to provide field trips and in-class experiences for every child K through 6. Just a couple that we've offered this year. The kindergarten has gone to the Morton Arboretum to enhance their curriculum on trees. The first grade is looking forward to bringing in butterflies into the school to enhance their science curriculum this spring. Second grade has a storyteller, Sue Black, who comes in and helps bring the Underground Railroad to life for our kids. Fifth grade recently just took a field trip to go see a production of Harriet Tubman's life. And also, along with enriching programs, not just for kids, but also for parents, we've doubled the number of fun lunches. And parents are more excited than the kids are about that one. Another big thing is we work on creating a sense of community. We start off with throwing Hillcrest Fest and getting everyone excited about going back to school. Throughout the year, we offer programs like the Mother-Daughter Dance-a-thon, the Father-Child Movie Night, and a Family Bingo Night. We offer a board and brush event for parents to get to know one another, as well as a new mentoring program for families where we give them a yard sign and pair them with a seasoned veteran family so they can have someone to reach out to and ask questions throughout the year. One of the new things that we're doing this year to help create a sense of community is using our Angel Fund in a unique way. We have used it to provide students who qualify for free and reduced lunch to be able to come shop at the Holiday Shop with a waiver, or to participate in our fun run in the spring to make sure that everyone at Hillcrest can fully participate in all the activities that we offer. We keep a website that is updated. It is a resource for parents and staff alike. And we do not forget about our staff. Last year, and it was so successful, we're doing it again this year, we opened a mini 7-Eleven during Staff Appreciation, and it was very well stocked to the point where I think teachers were good with Diet Coke, Goldfish crackers, and Sun Chips through the end of the year. And to make all this happen, we do a lot of fundraising. We have a team of fundraisers that do an amazing job. Our game night this year had almost 250 people in attendance, and our Hound Dog Dash, which is coming up in May, is expecting over 300 runners. And because of all that fundraising, we're able to support these programs, and we're also able to make purchases such as a new laminator, and as well as the approval of 3 picnic benches for outdoors so the teachers can have class outside when the weather permits, hopefully. Thank you for letting me speak this evening and highlight some of the things that the Hillcrest PTA does. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello. So we are thrilled tonight to be highlighting one of the new initiatives that we started this school year. Evan mentioned our all-school meetings. This is something that we introduced to complement our SEL curriculum. So each month we gather in the gym shortly after arrival and we join as a school for a meeting. Each month follows a similar format where we do our morning announcements followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Following that, we have a focus trait. So we've expanded on just the character traits of the month by our SEL team really revamped the character trait focus so that we have a topic that aligns with what's being taught in the classroom, but then it's also teaching everybody at the same time, really reinforcing what is also happening at our Hillcrest Family Monthly activities, and then what's happening in the classroom. We started out this school year with just very simple general school expectations and procedures. So some of the simple things that maybe some of our newer students aren't aware of, and some of our more veteran students needing a refresher, something as simple as where can I play when the weather maybe isn't allowing safe recess in all of our typical areas. We also reiterated or introduced for everyone pause slips. This is our school-wide positive reinforcement system given to students to recognize and those good behavior character traits that are above and beyond, whether it is something academic focused or social behavioral. We also, in September, reintroduced for not just the students but the staff that we have 3 buddy benches at Hillcrest. So beyond the picture, Mrs. Downs, our school social worker, talked with the entire school about how do we use the buddy bench. So just a couple simple steps, but something to remind everyone of the purpose of those buddy benches and how we can best support students when maybe they don't have a recess plan. Ms. Cole.
Which do I click? This one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so next we're going to show you a few videos that we had as part of our school meetings to help reinforce some of the skills. So the first one that you're going to see is a school video from our kindergarten students who were talking about respect.
Respect is showing kindness. Respect is showing honor. Izzy, what's your favorite color? Blue. What's yours? Pink. It sounds to teacher. Oh yeah, it is. Respect is showing care. Respect is showing concern. Uh-oh, someone dropped garbage. It's okay, I'll pick it up.
presentation during our whole school meetings. So that was kindergarten showing respect, and then we're going to show you a little bit, a clip of our 6th grade. We won't show you the whole thing. We won't want to sit through the whole thing.
Christopher. Hi, I'm Natalie. And we're talking about hallway expectations. We're going to be practicing going into the building. Watch it. Did you see what happened? That was really disrespectful. Wait. That was respectful.
So they go through different scenarios and show you the respectful behavior throughout the building. That was used as a skill introduction for our students.
So moving along, we really try to train not only the students but staff so that there's a use of common vocabulary throughout the school across settings. Strategies are taught such as I statements, and in this case, matching the size of the problem with your reaction. The focus is oftentimes on teaching a skill or concept, but then also modeling is done by students in many cases. And we really try to relate these to real life examples that students would experience both inside of school and outside. Next up.
So another thing we do during our whole school meetings is introduce exciting new things that we're doing in the building. And one of the exciting new things that we are doing this year is One Book, One Hillcrest. So as a school, we're reading Wish Tree, and so we introduce it at the meeting and take it a little bit further. This month we also talked about acceptance, and we talked about how Wish Tree and the idea of acceptance kind of intertwine. So in this meeting we talked about embracing our similarities and differences, and that was in our January meeting.
In February, we focused on the character trait of kindness and bringing in caring. Now, as we're trying to support growth and development of well-rounded children, we really take a multifaceted approach. So not only did we talk about kindness being demonstrated toward others, but we also really emphasized demonstrating self-love. At this school-wide meeting, we took a few moments to practice some ocean breathing as a whole school. Did a little relaxation, positive affirmation, like self-talk demonstration. Now, last week in March, we are now shifting gears to teamwork. We had our 4th graders doing a great presentation on the qualities that you need to be a good team player. Some different times that many of us have had to use teamwork, whether that was in school or outside of school. And then they also talked through specifically some times that, or some recent experiences that they had with demonstrating teamwork when they participated in a marshmallow toothpick bridge creation with through a STEM challenge. So lots of good teamwork being used there, which was the perfect transition into our Watts of Love initiative that Student Council just previewed for you. This will be the fundraising initiative that the entire school is taking on for the remainder of the year. We love teamwork at Hillcrest School.
So one of the things that when we're working all together, we're really trying to come off to the students as having a unified front. We're all in this together. That includes our custodians, that includes our IAs. We all wear our Choose Kind shirt that I'm modeling up there with the regular pants. Yeah, so we make sure that everybody is included. We wear these Choose Kind shirts at every school meeting. So, we send out that reminder so everyone kind of comes in and we all know it's a day that we're going to be learning about social emotional skills or any other topic that we're learning about that day. As I said before, too, all the grade levels are taking turns to be a part of that presentation and be a part of that unified message. So this is a slide that lists some of the names of students who earned Hound Dog of the Month. So not only do we celebrate big things as a school, and not only are we learning, but we're also, really celebrating each other's social, emotional, just well-being and making sure that students know that they're appreciated. Each month there's a different Hound Dog of the Month for every class. We also have Possum Staff Awards. We do awards for cleanest cubbies. We do awards for lunchroom table points. So we're constantly trying to bring attention to all of the great things and great people that are in our building. So the Possum Staff Award is new this year, and it's something that we started where students actually nominate the staff members. So it's really cool for us to see those nominations come through and all the great things that Michelle and I don't get to see all of the time and coming genuinely from the students. But we'll let
We
this
thought this
speak
kind of
for
summed it
itself. Yeah.
We love all school meetings. It's a great way to start our day.
Thank you for having us here tonight. I don't know if you have any questions, but otherwise, that's Hillcrest.
Thank
Great
you.
place to be.
Just a quick comment. I do know the Watts of Love there. It's a fantastic product, and it does help anybody who's lucky enough to come across them who can receive those. They do a wonderful job. So thank you. We also have a gift for the children. For some of them may have left, but maybe we
have some
can
other engagement.
track them down tomorrow and give them to them for us.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Nice job.
Thank you, parents, too, for bringing the students today. Thank you.
Next on tonight's agenda is non-action reports. Recognizing students of ILMEA, All-State Chorus, District 58 Band, and Orchestra Solo and Ensemble Contest participants. The board would like to formally recognize the students who were selected to participate in the Illinois Music Educators Association All-State Chorus, as well as participants in the District 58 Band and Orchestra Solo and Ensemble Contest. Congratulations on your musical accomplishments. Next on the agenda is recognition of community partners, Pierce Downers Heritage Alliance, and I'd like to introduce Ken Lerner.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
I'm here to talk about the Little Sprouts program a little bit, which is the program, part of the science and nature curriculum, which first graders get a chance to go visit Lyman Woods, which is a great natural resource right here in Downers Grove, and take advantage of the resource and the programs that the Park District puts on there to learn about nature. And I have just a little information, a little summary I got from Anna Fontanetta, who is a naturalist at Lyman Woods. She said the first graders in 2018 in the Little Sprouts program rotated through 4 stations: Sprouts Cycles, Flower Fashions, Chef Soil RD, and Coats and Cotyledons, each led by a natural areas instructor. And the students were able to role play plant's journey through the seasons, dissect seeds, follow a recipe for soil, and dress up an adult as a flower, much to their delight. At Pierce Downers Heritage Alliance is a local volunteer group. We support conservation of nature, open spaces on a local basis, and nature education. And it is our pleasure to support the Little Sprouts program with a donation to offset a portion of the cost of the program. So I have a check.
Thank you.
This is not going to show up as a big bump in the overall District 58 budget, but I hope that it will serve as a symbol of our support, of community support for this particular program and for nature education in general. One last item. We understand that curriculum has been going through changes, and that's going to be implemented in the upcoming year. We have a meeting scheduled with the curriculum folks, and we're going to try and rope in some of the Park District folks as well to talk about where we go with this in the future. And we're very much hoping that we can continue to utilize this great natural resource that we have in Downers Grove as part of the educational program for District 58, and maybe even expand. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Thank you for your generosity.
Thank you.
Next is a spotlight on our schools, the strategic action plan progress update. Dr. Grimscully.
Yes, thank you. James is working on getting that queued up. We are very excited this evening on behalf of the district and the district leadership team, as well as the many councils working throughout our district to be able to provide the board and our community with a progress update. So this is our second trimester progress update to the board and our community regarding our 3 big and ambitious goals that are laid out through our strategic plan. So the board will recall, as will our community, hopefully, that this is a new plan for us this year, and we have many different councils and groups working and helping us to accomplish these goals. So there's 3 goal areas, and we will talk about each of those briefly. We will point the community and the board to the reports that are both attached in the board docs as well as online, so that if you want some more information, you can read a little bit deeper. But we want to hit on a few highlights of success this evening to start off. So we will talk about focusing on learning, which is our first really big goal that we are accomplishing through curriculum and through teacher professional development. We'll talk a little bit about connecting the community, and then finally securing the future as we pursue excellence together. So we'll start off this evening. We thought we'd start with Megan Hewitt, who wanted to point out just a couple of things on the district website so that the board and the community knows where to find additional information. We've done some updates to our website, and in particular to our strategic planning site, and so we wanted to point those out to tonight so that people know where to access additional information if they'd like. So Megan, thank you for...
So good evening. So I'll be working in tandem with James here, as I'll be showing you how to navigate a few different things, and he'll be clicking the buttons. So to start, we have a lot of information about our strategic plan on the District 58 website. For starters, our dashboard is right front and center there on the district homepage. It's the second slideshow that comes up. So if you click on that link, and there's a few other places where that link is, but that's definitely the most prominent place. When you click on it, it opens up to our dashboard, which is the best place to go to access updates regarding all of the strategic goals, objectives, strategies, all of that information. So once you're there, if you click on the first section leading to Goal 1, you'll see the legend, all the objectives, a link to go back to the home page, and then you dig into the dashboard. So it has all of the goals, and then the dot signifies where we're at. And then, you know, if you click, for example, view details there, any of them, you can get a little bit more information about the particular strategy, what we're hoping to accomplish. And then as you go down a little farther, you can see what our progress has been, and we'll be continuing to update that each quarter, so any community member can see what progress we've been making on a quarterly basis. And you'll see how our progress has improved with the color coding as well. So, yeah, so for that one, we hadn't started it in at the first quarter, and now we're making expected progress, and that particular strategy has been initiated. So I can quickly show you what the other two goals look like. If you click the dashboard homepage, and you go down to view section for there. Very similar, we have a color code for each of our goals to help brand each of the goals a little bit better and help community members better understand what they're seeing when. But each of the goals areas follow a similar pattern with, you see view details, view progress, and then information about each goal. Yeah, I mean, the goal 3 was the same idea. So we probably.
You want to share?
I mean, yeah, sure. It's okay. It has all the information there. And actually, with goal 3, that's the first one where we actually have strategies that we've met. So that blue signifies a goal has been met, which is a really great thing to see. A lot of hard work has, finally been realized and completed. All right, so if James please goes back to the homepage. Another place to access Vision 58 strategic plan information is that very top link under quick links right on that homepage. This is our strategic plan homepage. It has a quick overview of what our strategic plan is all about, along with several key resources, including a link to that dashboard that we already saw, and a lot of supporting information. I want to point out at this time, the strategic plan working groups and membership page. That page features links to all of our working groups that are supporting all of the strategic plan's goals. And of those, I wanted to highlight the Facility Planning Council page. This page contains every single presentation and meeting agenda related to the Facility Planning Council. That council in particular has done a considerable amount of work with reviewing our facilities. So community members who are interested in learning about some of the work that's been done, this webpage in particular is a great resource to get that information. So that is a quick preview of some of the information you can access via our website regarding the strategic plan. So if there's any questions, otherwise we can move on.
No?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Justin is going to review our first goal, which is focus on learning.
Thank you. Much of the work under Goal 1 has been articulated in other meetings and at other times, but by way of summary, there are 3 major councils that are working to do this work. The Curriculum Council has met twice since our last update. That's the group that really has articulated the short term, as in the next few years, trajectory for our curriculum review and potential or hopeful adoption. We've talked through that sequence many times before. That's the group that also has discussed the ways to implement that curricular adoption and the importance of time and support to make sure that those things are happening as we go through that process. We've acknowledged it is an intensive timeline, but one that we believe is able to be met with those additional supports that we've been discussing throughout the course of the year. The Professional Learning Council is the group that really has taken the first look at identifying and researching a number of different professional learning models, as well as what is best practice in professional learning. Most recently, they've been synthesizing the feedback we've received on the proposal that we've made for professional learning next year, working to capture all of the teacher feedback, make sure that those pieces have been answered, and then helping us to create further details around the draft plans. That's been a group that's been really helpful in terms of adding some really specific nuanced detail to the drafts we're building. And finally, the newest group under Goal 1 is the Instructional Model Review Council, who has met just for the second time a couple of days ago. This is the group that is working sort of concurrently with the Facility Planning Council, and it's this group's charge to really examine from an instructional development
developmental lens, the reasons we would or would not consider things like a 6-8 middle school or other instructional models, or even what a middle school model would look like regardless of grade level configurations, but what are the components of a successful middle school experience? So what does research tell us about that? What can we learn? What can we implement? All those kinds of things. And so this group is actually the largest right now of the three, comprised of a number of parents, teachers, and administrators, and really will be meeting the most between now and the spring, so that we can have time to have some really thorough and thoughtful discussions before we meet with the Facility Planning Council in a few months to kind of bring those two conversations together, and hopefully the Instructional Model Review Council will be able to make some degree of, if not full-on recommendation, at least provide some context into the conversations we've been having around some of these same considerations.
And Jane is going to talk next about connecting our community, which really focuses on communication and collaboration and consistency across our district in working with our faculty and staff, but also with our community at large.
All right, thank you. As Carrie said, for our goal 2, we're really looking at those improvement efforts for communication, collaboration, consistency. We've listed here the focus of the work, just as that overview. There are a number of objectives that overlap with the different working groups. So I have 4 different working groups. These groups together are made up of almost 70 different people who I would like to say have been working very hard. We really appreciate that time, the dedication, the energy, the ideas. And again, that overlap as we look at communications, we look at our feedback, we look at the resources that are trying to come up with some ideas to be more equitable across our schools. The work, we've continued meeting since our last update, nearly monthly, and we have more meetings scheduled for both April and May. On the next slide, we wanted to share really an update on our progress. These are all works in progress. So we don't have finished products, if you will, to share tonight. We do plan to share some information in our May board meeting as well as at the June board meeting when we do our next strategic plan update. But really we're looking at the improvement efforts. Megan shared tonight the strategic plan dashboard. As you know, we've begun the video recording of our school board meetings. The Inside Scoop is up and running, and that's really the internal newsletter to staff, and it's been continuing to be built out to be more robust and really contain as much information as we can as a team think of that our teachers, all staff, instructional assistants, custodians may want to know so they can feel and better understand and be up to date in what's going on in our district. We have initiated a new parent onboarding page on our website, and this came from feedback from parents. Again, this goal is going to continue to evolve as we identify a gap. You know, parents were reaching out that as a new parent, I don't even know where to go and I don't even know what information I don't know. And so I know that Megan was working very hard to get this page up and running as a starting point. And I believe there'll be more pages similar as we identify other needs from our parent community. The communication toolkit, again, is in progress. It is not in final form, but it's really going to be a guide for our community of the types of communications, the frequency, and the audience, so people have an understanding of where do I go for what type of information. We're working on, again, looking at our district website, making sure the information's up to date, reviewing the usability, and trying to make improvements there. One of our councils has begun developing, and we have a pretty good draft that will be ready for, again, in the next few months to share more broadly, of expectations for responding to communications and for feedback. That was one of the pieces of information we were hearing of. I send information or I send feedback or I send an email to any one of us, whether it's an employee, whether it's board member, parent. I'm not sure where it goes. I'm not sure what the response is. And so we put together some basic guidelines, and I think already some of those actions are in progress and are happening. We've taken some really good steps for that quick, more timely response, thorough response to the variety of communications that come to, again, administration, staff, and our board members. The Resources Review Council is looking at really that definition of equitable as we consider trying to ensure or work toward more equity and more equitable resources across all of our schools. as well as, and tied to that would be the staffing allocations. So we are halfway through developing some systems, a framework for how we make those decisions so that we can more broadly communicate, so our parent community better understands, for example, how we've made decisions to staff a building, how many teachers, kindergarten teachers, class size. We're moving into our next phase of staffing conversations, which would be looking at how do we make decisions about, for example, how many resource teachers a building may have, and what is that formula, so that we can have more consistency in the decisions, and so people understand how those decisions are being made. What is that rationale? Again, we look forward to sharing some specifics in that breakdown as we get into our May and our June board meetings. And then finally, there's a small group of administrators working to develop a plan for the one objective related to more consistent messaging coming from our schools. So for next year, we would like to have in place a weekly communication coming from our building administrators. The team now is looking at what is shared with parents, how often, pulling out those the aspects of the communication that we are getting very positive feedback from our parents, and then having more of a structure and more consistencies of messaging from our buildings to our parent community starting in the fall. So, questions?
Thank you, Jane. And Todd then is going to summarize the progress made in Goal 3, which is securing our future, and really focuses on our facilities and the timeline that we've laid out there, as well as our finances to support not only our facilities, but all the great work that's happening within our schools. Todd?
I always feel bad because I have one council I report on, and Jane and Justin have 3 or 4 of them each. The FPC, the Facility Planning Council, has been meeting since the beginning of the year, since September. And as the board is aware, at the last month meeting, there was their first initial report out of stages, or steps 1 and 2 of the plan. That was a 300 and some odd page report that the architects presented that deals with the visioning process, as well as the walkthrough piece of facilities. What is on the agenda for this evening is a part to continue with that with White and Company that the FBC has gone through and evaluated and continues to work on, and that is steps 3 through 6. That is the meat and potatoes of it, where the architects do a lot of their review of all of that data, all that information, and all of that foundation work that has been done to date. And we will then, the FPC will be working with them as for some community engagement sessions that will come up in the spring before the end of school. And that will result in bringing up to the board in August a recommendation for a facilities plan. Master plan. The council has been meeting monthly. It is, as Justin has noted, we are working to schedule a meeting with the Instructional Model Review Council to bring those 2 groups together because that's an important aspect of the facilities. The facilities work to provide for and meet the needs of the academics and instruction. And so it's important to interact and have that piece. And so that will come together as we're bringing the architectural work together and to come forward with that next step in the recommendation. As Megan pointed out, we have the website that has all of the data that has been put together, not only this year's data, but even going back to the initial work that started in 2012. With all of the facility review that White and Company has done previous to that, as well as any other information that we can provide. As far as the next part of the goal, the financing, of course, and the planning and the budgeting, that goes along with is to continually working to maintain a sustainable program and format going forward, and that is part of our process that we deal with on a daily basis, but as we're thinking and being thoughtful of those aspects as well. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Todd. So that concludes our summary report. Again, we would invite everyone to take a look at some of those pages that Megan pointed out, as well as the more detailed report that's attached to this evening's board agenda. But we would be happy to answer any questions or receive any feedback from the board if there is any. Good. Thank you for all your hard work.
I had a question. Justin, one of the things on the strategic plan for focus on learning is 1.4 on commitment. More of a question about what that work includes, less so about the progress of that work. Do you mind just speaking to, when we talk about developing collaborative team structures, what we mean by that?
Sure. I think the intent in authoring that was to really ensure that we were maximizing the resources that we had, and that we were, from a committee perspective, from a building level perspective, from a district perspective, really reaffirming that collaborative process, and also working to identify some of the steps that are there. And the intent of the first step toward that goal will really be to see where we're starting from, what do those structures look like in all levels of our district, and then it's work that probably overlaps a little bit with some of the work in Goal 2 as well, as we start to think about creating those consistent collaborative structures that are out in the open, so that people know how decisions are being made, how the work is being done, and that we know that we're doing it well and as well in each venue as the other.
Got it. Would this address what type of, right now the committees and councils that you have put together are intended to be temporary, right? They're intended to solve particular challenges, address and build playbooks. Would these team structures then be longer term? What are the structures we want to put in place so that teachers and principals have time in committee work to do ongoing work around curriculum planning or instructional model planning? Or help me understand that.
I think that's a fair assumption going forward, that the work of 1.4 would work to solidify the structure maybe of the permanent structures that are, I mean, there are team structures currently that are somewhat permanent, that are ongoing. Yes, I hope some of these councils will eventually have blue dots and sunset. I think that would be wonderful to see the accomplishments of some of those things happening. Though I don't think that's in the very near future. I think that the work of all of the councils we're describing could well be the life of the strategic plan. And in that 4 or 5 year period, then hopefully we will be establishing some more permanent structures. Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing.
I think I would add too that I think in looking at objective 1.4, I think we're looking at all of the team structures across our district, and so we're focused right now, because we're reporting on the strategic plan, on the councils, but each of our schools have different teams that are working on a variety of projects as well. And later on tonight's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about the professional learning model and hopefully receive approval for that. That introduces some new teaming opportunities for us, and so all of those together we want to continue to review and evaluate how those are working for us and for our teachers, and then the outcomes that we're accomplishing for our students throughout that work.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next on tonight's agenda is communications. Listed on the agenda are 19 communications received by the board. Are there any additional communications board members would like to share at this time?
I think it's been shared, but under number 15, I think there was also a response back from me, or maybe that's a separate set of emails with that.
It is a separate
Okay,
set.
then we're all good, thank you.
Okay, next is the reports of the board. We'll start with the superintendent report with Dr. Kramer-Scola.
Thank you. Just a couple of updates. First of all, we're very appreciative for the Institute Day that we recently experienced. Many of our teachers, especially our K-6 teachers and our middle school science teachers, were able to spend that day really deepening their understanding of our next generation science standards and learning about, or starting to learn about, the new resources that will be implemented next school year. So we are really excited about this. Most of these teachers participated in 2 sessions throughout the day. One session was an extension of the NGSS introduction session, and the other was focused on our new science resources. So we're excited to be beginning this journey. We know there's a lot of work ahead for our teachers, but we're glad to see this work beginning, and appreciative of not only the time but the support for the new curricular resources. A couple of things I wanted to mention. We do have student registration opening on April 9th. Typically, we open that right after spring break. Parents will recognize there's a few things that are different as you go into InfoSnap. One in particular is just the way you access PushCoin. We really want to encourage families to get in and get their registration completed. That is information that we use immediately to start our staffing discussions and really be able to call back some staff and fill positions. And so not always do you have to make that payment right away for the registration fees, but we want you to complete the registration process so we have an accurate count of enrollment. Along with that, critically important to us and to all of our schools is kindergarten roundups. Those schedules have been posted online, and our schools are really communicating those out to families that they're aware of. We need our kindergarten families to not only register for kindergarten, but select their participation in the OKEEP program. That will allow us to start staffing for that program as well. Kind of along those same lines, you'll see later in tonight's agenda, 3 resolutions that relate to reduction in force. We are recommending those 3 resolutions to the board. They include honorable dismissal of some of our faculty and staff. This is never an easy recommendation for us to make, but it is an annual requirement of us in order to ensure that we have adequate staffing in light of enrollment and budget consideration. So I want to point that out, not only to our board, but to our community as well, that these are faculty and staff members who have served our students really, really well, and we are eager to call them back to work as soon as we have our enrollments updated. So for our teaching staff, the list includes 8 full-time teachers who, as soon as we have those enrollment numbers, we'll be able to call them back. And then we also have some part-time faculty that are listed on the resolution this evening. Again, once we have our enrollment numbers for the upcoming school year, we're able to start calling those staff back. And I just want to highlight again that these are faculty and staff members who have served our students, our schools, and our community really, really well, and we're eager to initiate that process of recall. You'll also see later on tonight's agenda, the policy committee recently reviewed the open enrollment policy and requests for that. Those requests need to be into us by April. That's consistent with the old policy as well as the recommended new policy, but there are some slight adjustments. I'm sure that Member Harris will highlight those when we get to that policy, but we really want our community to be aware of that. If you're interested in seeking a transfer from one school to another, that April deadline is still really important so that we can fully consider that
April 1st?
Application. I think it's April 1st. And then another item, I know the board has spent some time talking about the June board meeting. At this point, with 8th grade promotion being scheduled on Monday, June 10th, we need to reschedule what otherwise would have been our June board meeting so that we can all go to promotion. It appears that Wednesday, June 5th may work best for many of us, and I just want to affirm that date with the board this evening. We want to get that date scheduled and start communicating that change just as quickly as we can. So I'm asking the board this evening, are there any conflicts with that June 5th? That is Wednesday, June 5th. We would reschedule what otherwise was our June meeting from the 10th to the 5th in order to accommodate all of our participation, hopefully, in the promotion on Monday the 10th.
Well, I'll state the obvious, I have no conflict. So I won't be here.
June 5th will be fine. I expect you to come and sit in the audience and boo us or something like that.
Or cheer us.
Either way.
Yeah, cheerleader.
Does anyone have conflict with that date, or may we go ahead and set that?
Okay.
Okay. So the June board meeting will be scheduled then for Wednesday, June 5th. We appreciate everyone's flexibility with that and hopeful participation in the promotion ceremony as well. A couple other things that are coming up. First of all, the middle school Festival of Music is this Wednesday, March 13th. We're really excited about that. That is a format that brings together our choir, orchestra, and band members from both of our middle schools. There's a little bit of a new format this year, and so we're excited to support this event and hope that many community members will come out and see our incredible performers as they display musical talent for us. We also have our legislative breakfast this Friday, March 15th at O'Neill. We have community members, PTA representatives, members of the village council. This year, we also extended invitations to other school boards and their superintendents to join us, those who are District 99 feeders and District 99 themselves. So we're excited to have them join us this year. Our reading game event is this Saturday, so if you haven't yet volunteered and you want to, please come out and volunteer. I think there's some online links to accomplish that. And then finally, a reminder as we talk about registration for the upcoming school year, we also have registration going on right now for summer school and the extended school year program. That registration will close on April 12th. So as much as possible, if families can register for that before spring break, it will help you to not forget in those couple of days right after spring break. So thank you. That is all I have to report this evening.
Any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the monthly business reports with Todd.
Thank you. You have in your packet the month-to-date report. On the expense side, we are running actually a little ahead of where we were last year, and we're running ahead of budget. We're running better than budget. It's behind, but so that is good news. On the revenue side, things are coming in as expected. Last year, as a comparison, is always the one, as we point out each month. Last year's state revenue is an exception to the normal revenue stream because of the state budget that in the fall of 2017, the state advanced more money to help schools out as they sorted out their budget. So you'll always look at the state revenue this year versus last year, and it's always going to be a little skewed a bit. But overall, revenue is where it should be and where we expect it to be. We did add a new report into the group, or a new sheet into the report. We did review all of this. We had an FAC meeting on Friday morning, and as our practice every other month, to go through all of the financials with the FAC prior to the board as well. But we added a new report which shows state revenue, where we are expected, or where the amounts that they have said they're going to send us, and what we've received to date. The state pays revenue as a reimbursement of prior year expenditures. So what we receive in this fiscal year 19 is based on what the district did in fiscal year 18. When we started fiscal year 19, they still owed us for fiscal year 17 one payment. They've made that payment. And we normally receive 4 payments. Hopefully in a good year we receive 4 payments. So we received 1 payment for 17, and then we should receive 3 payments for 18, being that 1 will come into the fiscal year 20. So not only is it a reimbursement from prior year, but we're even a little bit farther behind. So we have a couple columns in here. One that shows what the total is owed if they were to repay us all of those 5 payments, and then on the far right side is based on 4 payments, what is owed and what is remaining. We have 33% of the year left, so we're at 67% of the year complete. The state currently owes us about 47% of its revenue expected to date. And this is what we track is through what's been invoiced and sent to the comptroller, what we received. So we know that we're lagging on some things. The state aid comes in as expected, as normal. That is the one thing that comes in continuously on time. The other pieces come in when money is available. We've included into this report, just so that we are aware that we are not alone in this piece, as of 3/5, according to the comptroller's office, the state owes 105,000 vouchers in excess of $8.023 billion. So we're with good company in the amount of money that is owed outside of the state. So that's a report we will continue and keep every month for the board, so you can see where we're at on payments and receipts for that. Questions on that piece at least? The next piece is our where we are at versus the 3-year average, and we are exactly where we expect to be with our ratios and so forth of revenue to expenses. which means, as you have on your agenda, that you have a transfer of funds from working cash into the Ed Fund. That is an annual event where the working cash is our fund balance, and our internal bank is usually how we best describe the working cash fund. And at this point, or certainly by the end of March, we will need those funds in the education funds to pay bills. So the transfer goes in, we transfer those funds in there, and then we will repay that transfer at the end of the fiscal year once we have those early tax receipts that come in June. So we are at this point really living on our fund balances, which is one of the reasons why we need to have fund balances, because we receive 45-48% of our revenue in the last 20 days of the fiscal year that we need to cover for those years, for those expenses. Additional to that on the action items is, besides the transfer, is a contract for transportation for First Student. We work with Woodridge and District 99 as a cooperative with First Student to contract and work together to find as many economies of scale and adjustments that we can do to keep those costs down. The contract's for a 4.5% increase. We've worked through this with them over the last couple months, and all of us have agreed to, as far as the business managers sitting down and going through it with them, make sure that this is going to help out. One of the pieces, there are some increases in drivers' salaries. Being that this is a good economy, it is sometimes difficult to find bus drivers at $16 and $17 an hour. So there's some increases in pay in there for them to retain staff. Additionally, there is a designated person who will be designated to our contract to work with only the 3 districts, to make sure that any issues, routes, problems, contact and work with parents is resolved and things, so that we are better managed in that aspect. It's a process that has gone well at other places, and so the bus barn manager at Westmont for First Student handles probably 6-8 different school districts. We would have our own person under that manager that would oversee it, and that's included into that increase. We also hope that through that piece, not only will there be some better communication and work and effectiveness with getting routes on time and right off the bat, but also some ways that we can hopefully consolidate and review and strengthen those. So that's one of the areas where we're also looking at, is how we can be more efficient and effective in our transportation. It is a very expensive part of our budget, and so we want to make sure we're being as efficient as we can in that aspect. One other thing is that at the FAC, and John probably bring this up in his report, is they had asked for kind of an update in the MRF. You have in the Treasurer's report every month what the balance is and so forth, but we will next month add another piece to the Medical Reserve Fund. That is a sub-fund of the Education Fund. It is separated out that we are a self-insured fund. All of the funds, all of the resources go into that, and then premiums and so forth are paid out to our third-party administrator. Right now, as of the year, we are running about 6% behind what we expected. So as claims are coming in. Now, that's as of claims. So the Wellness and Health Committee receives those monthly and goes through them. We met also last week, and they had, as of January, claims. So that's where we're at right now. Next month, we'll have another month of claims. You will have a spotlight on the Health and Wellness Committee at the April meeting, and then you'll have something coming forward soon from the Wellness and Health Committee about recommendations for the following year. So with that, if there are any questions.
Good. Thank you, Todd.
Great, thanks.
Next is the Policy Committee with Member Harris.
Thank you, Doug. As the board is well aware, we are continuing our work in revamping our policy manual to align better with press. I submit to you for your approval policies 5103 and 5104. As Carrie already spoke about, 5103 has to do with intra-district transfers. We are recommending language that sets as the criterion for approving them the term extraordinary circumstances, rather than putting some language in there around numbers, being able to have something a little more qualitative as a rationale for approving the transfers. These are the change in practices that Carrie alluded to is that the parents need to be aware of is that any approved intra-district transfer is not approved indefinitely. It is only approved on an annual basis. So if your child is approved to transfer from school A to school B in their first grade year, that under current policy, that's good until they graduate from 6th grade and matriculate on to the middle school. Under this policy, you would have to be making that request every year by April 1st. Similarly, it is not automatic in the ongoing that siblings would be included. If there's a situation involving one student that necessitates transfer, that can be approved, but the sibling of the student would also have to be included as a separate application, I guess. The board retains the authority to make adjustments when needed, and this does not impact anything having to do with student services. 5104 has to do with our non-public students.
Could I just
Please.
make a clarification,
Yes.
just so that there aren't questions that I know are already addressed within the policy? Those who have already been approved with the old inter-district policy are grandfathered in, and so those families who have already been approved under the old policy would remain eligible for that transfer through their 6th grade year. So this would only apply to new families applying, and so we want to make sure that everyone is well aware of that. Those who've already transferred will stay through 6th grade. New families will need to know that they'll have to apply annually.
Since the April 1st deadline will be before our second reading of this policy, is it safe to say that this language effectively goes into effect for school year 1920?
That's correct. No decisions will be made regarding requests that are occurring right now until we know for sure the policy. And that's pretty typical. The decisions wouldn't be made until enrollment is concluded. And so those decisions typically are made in August anyways. Yeah, so this policy is gearing us up for that. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. 5104 has to do with non-public students, and it clarifies the definitions of a full-time 58 student and a part-time 58 student, somebody who splits his or her time between a 58 school and a non-public school. And it specifies the types of co-curricular activities that child may or may not participate in. Anything else to add on that one? Okay. And then we are also recommending the deletion of policy 5102 as duplicative. The language that is contained therein currently is it's being satisfied by 5103 that we are approving as a first reading tonight. Jill, anything to throw in there?
All good.
Any questions?
Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
I got to thank you too, because for the first 2 years on the board, that's quite the undertaking. That every month we're getting policy changes, so obviously there's a ton going on there. And I know some of this was started even with Sally being on the board, so this is a top to bottom in and out review. It's a
lot of fun. You learned a lot.
Yeah. The next people on the policy committee aren't going to have anything to do for a couple of years.
Oh, no, there's more work to do for the next year.
There's always
and a half at
updating,
least.
but I mean, I don't know when the last time we've ever gone through a top to bottom, complete overhaul.
And really, I mean, you have to give credit to
It's been a really long time.
You have to give credit to the administration because they're the ones who are doing all the
That's why I
legwork.
went over to Jane. She's doing a lot of the legwork, I'm sure.
Thank you. Next is the Legislative Committee, Member Doshi.
Yeah. Wait, we need to approve the policies.
Wait.
The first reading?
First readings.
Oh, did I leave those out?
Yeah. I thought we were doing that a little later.
You're doing the second readings of the other ones, Lynn?
Did I stick them down?
We got the first readings now and the second readings.
I know, we don't need second readings for this because we skipped a meeting.
Okay.
You're right.
You want to just read that?
Okay. So we are looking for a motion to approve the first reading of policies 5103, school attendance areas, school assignment, and intra-district transfers, and policy number 5104, non-public school students.
So moved.
Second?
Would you call roll?
Discussion.
Any discussion, further discussion? No. Okay.
All right, Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
And Member Purcell.
Aye. Motion carried. To approve for first readings of policy 5103, school attendance areas, school assignment, and intra-district transfers, and policy 5104, non-public school students.
And then we have one more.
Yep, we have one
deletion.
more.
Oh, look at that, I'm making it. Hold on.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve for first reading the deletion of policy number 5102, school attendance areas.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Please call roll.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye. Motion passed to approve for first reading the deletion of policy 5102, school attendance areas. Next, we can move on to the Legislative Committee with Member Doshi reporting from the February 27th meeting.
Yep, thank you. This Friday is the legislative breakfast. For those that don't know, it's the Super Bowl for the Legislative Committee. It is an opportunity to welcome 4 of our representatives to a breakfast and grill them, really. No, we'll be asking them questions and a couple of highlights of this event. So if you think about how do we get our students engaged in and aware of civic life and the opportunities for public service, we invite our student council representatives from the middle schools to come and introduce the representatives, which is just a great opportunity for the students. And that's one highlight of the event. The other is that we get to shortlist questions that we want our legislators to answer about their knowledge of District 58, but also the issues that are pressing for us and get their perspectives on it. It's kind of a backhanded way to, if you're not aware of it, here's the things that we're worried about. And so this year is not like any other. We will be focusing on topics that are top of mind. How they are familiar. Some examples will be how do they get familiar with the issues facing us in District 58? How do they handle funding for the school district? As Todd mentioned today, we have delayed funding as a regular pattern from the state. It's close to a percentage point, if not higher, of delayed payments, which significantly impacts the ways in which we have to adjust our plans. And so questions around funding, questions around pension and pension costs. And so a number of things that are hot topics and relevant for us as a school district to be fiscally responsible, but also to make sure that we're pushing forward on teaching and learning. And so we're very excited about the opportunity to talk with the representatives and a number of folks that will be invited from not only 58, but also from neighboring school districts. So it should be a great event.
Thank you. Representatives?
Who are the representatives? It's a great question. We have 4. And I took notes on these because I wanted to make sure I knew who they were, and I've left my notes out. So I will ask Megan to name them.
Sure. We have Senator Susie Gloria, Senator John Curran, Representative Ann Stava Murray, and Representative,
Tara Costa Howard.
Yes, Tara Costa Howard, as well as a staff member from U.S. Congressman Bill Foster's office. His district director, Hillary Jake, will be attending.
Nobody from Caston?
No, he could not attend, and they weren't able to coordinate a staff member to attend.
Oh, interesting. His entire campaign was on communications with local. Yeah, interesting. I'll have to write a little letter to him about that one then. Didn't take long to break that campaign promise.
Any further reports? Is that?
No, that was it.
Describes it. Perfect. Thank you. We look forward to that on Friday. Next, Financial Advisory Committee. Member Miller.
All right. Todd told you most of what's going on. And I didn't remember if you talked about we did talk a little bit about the White Company proposal too. That's further on the agenda too. So we went over that, but you've all seen that. And then the updating some of our audit work and how to be a little bit more transparent to have our audit with the CAFR reporting. So a lot of the districts, we talked about it at the last board meeting a little bit, but other districts around the village and other governmental bodies, it's just an enhanced reporting of additional statistics. Is that probably the best way to say it? So it makes it longer. The first year is a lot more work for staff in the business office, but after that, then it's an update. But it does give a little bit more statistical analysis, stuff that's not necessarily required to apply with government accounting standards to get a good audit, but it's a good practice to do, and it does help in bond rating agencies do look at it as an additional source of information and transparency. So I'm not going to guess that everybody's going to look at it, but it may come in handy, especially down the road for a number of things as a way to be a little bit more transparent. I'll let Darren chime in too, but both of us had asked for a little bit more of reporting on healthcare. I know that the committee meets with representatives. I know, Greg, you represent us on that. It's a little different than other committees, is you're just kind of a representative there. It doesn't have to, a liaison more than a chair of a committee type thing. But there have been some changes to the healthcare plans, and employee groups are involved in that, the representatives, to try to help everyone, to help contain the cost. And what Darren and I have asked is a little bit more of a highlight on what the actual costs are every year. And I don't want to, I know that you don't like the term premium, Doug, but that's what we use. I don't like it either because we're self-funded, so how are we paying a premium? But that's a term employees especially use because that is a premium to them. You can see by looking at the medical reserve fund, if it goes up or down. If it goes down in balance, the assumption is that claims obviously exceeded what the premiums were going in there. So as we've expressed in the past, that medical reserve fund is more of a stabilization fund so that you can budget one budget line item that doesn't have a lot of variability, and then you adjust it by premiums in the following year. And as Todd said, we're running about 6% behind, and then we're going to have to figure out whatever inflation will be next year. So it could have a significant impact on next year's budget. The idea is to make sure that we have incremental increases in premiums and don't go a number of years where we're letting that fund go down mostly because it's being drawn down because we didn't have the premiums high enough. And now we'll stabilize that a little bit. So in some years they go down, and hopefully some years it'll be a little bit more and we can reduce the premiums the following year. And then also a little bit of an update from what the changes are so that there's an understanding that not only on the board but in the public, that there's a little bit more of awareness of what some of those changes are. And like any change in healthcare, whatever you do now is affecting something way down the road. Some of the wellness programs, you're talking years timelines before you see it. And some of the copay adjustments you may see next year, but you probably won't see them this year. So just so that people understand that, yes, there are changes being made, but you can't expect an immediate so we asked that be brought to the April board meeting. We haven't had that discussion in an open public meeting in a long time, and it's well overdue, I think. And just so everybody kind of has an idea where it is.
Did I miss anything?
No, it was pretty thorough, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Next will be a report from the district leadership team from Member Siegel.
My report can actually be pretty short since I think we heard so much about what's going on in the strategic plan right now. I think really, Darren, I just wanted to thank the leaders of those those core teams and all of the many, many people that have been working so hard. I think what we all saw earlier was just a reflection of how much work's going on in our district across all facets of everything that we do to really move the ball forward and really get everybody moving forward on the strategic plan. And I think the fact that you didn't hear any questions from the board just means that everyone's pretty comfortable with the amount of progress that's already taken place. But what we did do at that meeting was to dig a lot deeper into those reports and make sure everybody on the district leadership team really felt comfortable and had a chance to ask some questions up front. And so again, just really want to thank everyone for really putting in a lot of hard work on that.
Yeah, hard work was very, even more so when we talked about it in DLT, it was very, very obvious how much work is going into it. And I think that we're already seeing some of the dividends being paid on the work that's being done. I've had a couple of comments to me, even when I was sitting out here at the coffee with the board. There's a couple of people that have already brought up to me some of the pieces on communication, and and obviously some of the recommendations that have already come out of curriculum have been noticed by everyone. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is the discussion for this evening, which is board meeting audio and video recording. We did say we were going to bring this back after a few months of recording, and so we are, and to see if everyone is happy with what's happening and if we want to continue video recording board meetings.
So this is the third month that we have done this in this way with the village's support. We really appreciate that. James has gathered and provided to the board some of the analytics behind those videos, as well as the transition of audios to a YouTube platform, if I'm saying that correct, podcast of sorts, right? And so he can pull those analytics so that you can see when people are listening and how many people are. And I think those analytics are really valuable, but I think it's also just as valuable for everyone to know that those videos are available and that they can go back and look, even if they only just want to see a portion of the meeting. I think, again, it helps with the board's transparency and with our community's opportunity to really understand what the board discussions look like and what those presentations look like as well. So it would be our recommendation that we continue in this same way. But we wanted to give the board the opportunity to discuss that and give us directive in that regard.
I can start out. I agree. We can continue it. It just is another outlet for people to get information and see what happens. It's probably not all that shocking that it doesn't have a lot of uptake. I mean, you got meetings that go 3+ hours, and the average view is 17 and a half minutes. So 2 people reading that the whole way through. So obviously people aren't looking at the whole meeting, they're just looking at pieces of it. But if those pieces are the important parts that they want to get out of it for the cost of it, it seems worth it to me. I think if nothing else, I think it's an expectation in this day and age that they're recorded if they can be. So I would just continue doing it. We'll look at, maybe once a year you look at this or something. I don't know. It's up to whatever you guys want to do in the future. But I wouldn't spend a whole lot more making it any fancier than it is, because 9.2 minutes out of a 2.5 hour meeting, 9.2 minutes is the average view. So that means the majority of people watch it for less than 9.2 probably. It only takes 1 or 2 people to watch the whole thing, and then that means everybody else watched it for a minute.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. It's not, the numbers aren't shocking. I think that we all realize that this isn't the most exciting thing to watch on YouTube. At the same time,
But in person, it's very exciting.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the point.
Now that you're on board,
If they had
right?
caught
Yeah.
the light exploding over Craig's head.
That's right.
Yeah, well, that would have been.
Well, that doesn't say that one. That's where you saw that was literally an explosive meeting and got a little bit more viewership. I think what I like about the platform is the usability of it and the fact that, we have the opportunity, I think, to link to specific even moments in video. And I think that is a tool that we can continue to figure out how to use more to our advantage, especially when we have big topics that might be a discussion that we went into, and it's a 2.5 hour meeting, and somebody doesn't want to sit through that, but we're talking about a curriculum component or something like that. It's a real opportunity for us as a district to push, here, we talk about this for 7 minutes, here's a link that takes you directly to that point. I think we can find ways to continue to utilize the platform more, even if people aren't sitting through the meeting in its totality. So.
I agree. I think we should continue doing it. One of the things that I was warned about from other districts that had said that they tried this and it failed for them was both the board and the community using it as an opportunity to grandstand and just be weary of, now that the video's on, I can link to spotlight my particular challenge in a way that is beyond just like public comment or reception of visitors. I haven't seen one example of that, not even close, besides me doing it. I haven't seen one example of that at all. And so I just think that that's something we should be mindful of. That if it does get to a point where it's now becoming a show, something to be aware of and something to be mindful of, that this is our regular business meeting and it should be treated as such. But it's also an opportunity for us to at least hear from the community. And as long as that's all happening with the respect of each other, then I think it's a perfectly good forum. And so far so good. And just the fact that we get to see analytics on it is a dream. It's helpful to know that there's double-digit users every time, and there's people that are consuming it in meaningful ways, it seems. And so, green light.
I know that I personally used it multiple times this month in response to questions that I've gotten.
That knocks it down to 20.
Yeah. I'm only one unique user. But to point people when they ask questions and say, when did you talk about this, and do you have a question about that, and to be able to point them directly to where we talked about it in the meeting, I find really useful. And Megan, I'm not sure how much is you and James in terms of the way it's all being loaded onto the website, but I'm personally finding it to be a very comfortable format right now, that I can find those board briefs, I can find those and having the audio also on YouTube in that same format, I'm finding that to be particularly helpful.
Okay, so we agree, we will keep it. Great.
Thank you. We will proceed and continue then.
Right. Next is the reception of visitors. This is an opportunity for members of the audience to share public comment with the board, subject to reasonable constraints, but is not intended to be a time for members of the public to enter into a dialogue with the board. Issues raised during public comment may be added to future agendas or addressed by administrative staff as appropriate. Criticism of individuals is not in order. In accordance with board policies 8022 and 1150, individuals appearing before the board are expected to follow these guidelines. 1, any person addressing the board shall identify yourself, state your name, school, attendance area, and shall speak as briefly as possible. 2, the board president has the authority to determine procedural matters regarding public participation not otherwise in board policy, including time limitations when appropriate. And 3, the president is responsible for the orderly conduct of the meeting and shall rule on such matters as time to be allowed for public discussion and the appropriateness of the remarks to the subject under consideration. Tonight, we will allow 3 minutes for each person with a 30-minute total. At this time, we will see if we have any cards. We have no cards. We will then...
People have cards in the audience, they just don't have them in the basket, so they can just
That's
bring
fine.
them up when they come in.
We'll open it up, and if you do have a card filled out, you could give it to Megan. That way the board can reach back out to you afterwards if needed. So at this time, we'll ask anyone who wishes to speak to come forward, state your name and school attendance area, and provide your public comment.
Hi, I first want to say, I understand that teachers need to be helped to help students. I just have a few concerns about the...
Sorry, could you state your name and attendance area?
I'm sorry. I'm Allison Roselle, and I have a student at Hillcrest and a student at O'Neill.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm just concerned, I think that Friday, first of all, I want to pitch that as a better day, because both Friday and Monday both have the ability to be weekend extenders, which people, I know that was a concern that it would be used that way. But Friday has a special benefit of flexibility for some employers, so people may be able to pick up their child. And some people are able to pick up their children, from what I've heard, on other days, but not at 2 p.m., so they would actually have to pay, I think it's $48 or so for one day at Champions. Also a concern of instructional minutes lost in middle school versus elementary school due to the 2 p.m. release for both schools at the identical pickup time, which might be a little difficult, and the fact that middle school normally ends at 3:15, where elementary, I think, is 2:55. So with the makeup proposed of 10 minutes for elementary and 5 for middle school, it makes me wonder, what will the middle school schedule look like? How many minutes will they have learning? And also the lunch recess timeframes for elementary. Another concern, when they bring in 6th grade to middle school, the students released at 2 will be younger, they'll be 11 years old. And I'm hoping that the plan will be something like Fridays monthly, and then the elimination of half-days would be something that seems doable for me, and it's not like jumping into every week where it may sound good up front to some, but maybe later it'll be daunting. So I just think that we should move a little slower and build awareness for people. There's people that are well-connected in the PTA Council that had no idea about this. Girl Scout moms, for some reason, are looking on Facebook and thinking that all Institute days will be eliminated instead of what's really happening, which is, obviously Institute days are necessary, and this is something different, more like a community of learners and not necessarily professional learning, which I think is a little misleading for some. They might think that this is a replacement when it's not, in fact, a replacement, it's in addition to. So I think more awareness needs to be built before this could be voted as a yes.
Thank you.
Allison, I'm sorry, do you mind leaving your card so we can publish? Thanks.
Thank you. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Teresa Johnson, and I have kids at Kingsley and O'Neill. I just think that every week, getting out early hurts the kids in the long run, and this is what it's all about. I believe in our teachers. I think they can get things done maybe once or twice a month, tops. In 90 minutes, come on. People don't want to be in meetings. That's why they're teachers. They don't want to be in meetings. They want to get it done. So please think about it. I think it should be revisited what we're going to do here. And please vote no. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Jen Hazelhorst. I have 2 kids at Hillcrest, a 5th grader and a 2nd grader. I am wildly excited about the idea of professional learning community for our staff. I was a former teacher myself, and I was blessed to be in a community that actually had daily professional learning time, and it made such a positive impact on the students. We were able to really develop dynamic curriculums, fully understand the material, especially when it was new or it was a subject that was outside of our wheelhouse. We were really able to rely on other staff that was their mastery to make us better teachers. We were also able to make sure that no kids were falling through the cracks in terms of missing assignments because we had time to be professionals with one another. It's sort of an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure kind of thing, if you use that analogy. And I was actually, that was one of my biggest reservations about District 58 was the lack of professional time the teachers have. And I think this is only going to develop a more critical learning environment, which is what we all want. So I encourage you to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tracy Weiner Puffer. I'm here to anecdotally say that there was some dialogue over the weekend on various social media websites, and they were mostly positive. And what struck me most is most of the responses that were positive were actually qualified responses from teachers in neighboring districts who actually have this in place in their districts, and talked about the incredible opportunities they have with the professional development and how valuable they feel it is. And I believe that the fact that 17 districts in the area who have already early release, as well as 11 districts that have weekly early release. While change is hard for a lot of people, as someone that sits on the curriculum council with 3 curriculums that are ongoing for the next 3 years, I feel that purchasing curriculum and then just saying we purchased it and handing the teachers over some textbooks or resources is really just checking a box and not really taking care to ensure that it is done with fidelity and professionally, equitably across all the districts. So I would here to say that I fully support the weekly early release program. Other districts do it, and they survive just fine. So I know that all the parents in town will rise to the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Kelly Henriksen. I'm a Pierce Downer parent, and I have 2 different things. The art curriculum, the schedule that was presented at the curriculum meeting. I'm just wondering if it is all possible, instead of 30 minutes for art weekly, if we could maybe go back to 2006 and consider maybe 40 minutes 3 times a month, because it's the same amount of time. I don't think that art teachers and students will gain a lot from 30 minutes of an art program. And especially since every other district in DuPage County besides Westmont has art for 45 to 50 minutes. I think it's something we need to consider. And lastly, for the early release, I'm not against it, but I think that we really need to be a little bit more transparent with the parents in the community instead of just saying, hey, this is what we're doing and this, you just gotta figure it out. Figure out your daycare, figure out something. I think you really need to think about it and be a little more communicative, like you're suggesting that you're going to be doing. Parents don't always read, and they obviously don't come to these meetings, and they're not aware that this is even on the table. So I really encourage you to really think about it and maybe delay your decision. Maybe let the community know a little bit. The coffee email didn't even suggest, hey, this is on the document. Unless you follow Tracy Weiner's website, you have no idea what's going on. So I just encourage you to think about that more clearly. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Kelly, I'm going to ask you also, I saw you had a card. If you can leave that with James, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Emily Hannes, Pierce Downer. I first want to thank the administrative staff and the teachers and all the support staff who've worked so hard the past almost 2 years on all the much-needed updates to the curriculum and also the updates in the proposal for the professional development plan. These updates will help our kids to receive the innovative and modern education that they deserve. All the time spent researching, studying, piloting, and implementing these new curriculums will be wasted if we don't also provide our amazing and hardworking teachers and staff with the professional development necessary. It's unrealistic to expect our staff to master anywhere from 3 to 5 new curriculums, as well as updates to how we use technology in the classroom in just 4 to 5 years without this additional professional development. The consistent professional development time that this proposed early dismissal program provides will allow teachers to be able to work collaboratively with their colleagues, share ideas, successes, failures, and challenges, collect and analyze student data, create new and creative lessons, and simply become even better teachers. I believe it's unrealistic to expect our district to remain competitive without these curriculum updates, but it's also unrealistic to expect the updates to have the significant impact we expect without also providing teachers with the necessary professional development to maximize our investment. Every parent can understand and sympathize with the challenge of providing childcare for your kids when you can't be with them. This Monday early dismissal will undoubtedly be hard for families with 2 working parents. I'm glad to see that the district administration is communicating with local childcare providers and looking for any ways that they can assist families in making the transition as smooth as possible. We heard at the curriculum workshop about all the different local establishments that they have reached out to and communicated with and talked with, and I'm thankful for that. While the challenges of additional childcare is not insignificant, I believe that the benefits our students will receive as a result of this professional development time for teachers will far outweigh that challenge. The additional time for teachers to work together and learn from one another will mean that when we send our kids to school each day, they'll be receiving an even more creative, even more innovative, even more modern education that will better prepare them for the future. Many of our neighboring districts and districts in the larger suburban area have already implemented similar models of early dismissal or late start. These districts understood the value that this type of consistent professional development would bring to their teachers and in turn to the quality of education their students are receiving. I'm glad that District 58 is joining them in recognizing this need. I feel this will be another step in the right direction for providing our kids with an education that will take them into the future prepared to be successful. So I encourage you to vote yes on the plan as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andrea Staley, and I live in the Highland District, but I have a kindergartner at Bel Air. I just wanted to state that I've been here, talked a few times in regards to that whole enrollment and overcrowding with Highland, and I'm happy to see that over the last few months, there's been a lot more communication from the board or the district or whatever. Somebody, I've now seen stuff in the mail, so I appreciate, suggestions from the general public and from parents. There actually be action taken on it. So I just wanted to give that acknowledgement and say that as opposed to the previous year where it sort of seemed like it snuck up on people, I do see that energy has been put into the reaching out to the community and the people that possibly don't have kids in school. I mean, I've gotten stuff in the mail now, and I know that was a direct result of another parent's suggestion at a previous board meeting. So I just wanted to give that acknowledgement out. And also state for the record that I had said when I spoke last time at the board meeting that I didn't receive an email in regards to that whole situation, and luckily Dr. Carrie Cremascoli came up to me afterwards and pointed out who sent it to me. I just didn't recognize, because it wasn't my principal, well, my daughter's principal, and so it came from someone who didn't recognize she had actually sent it. So I'm glad to see that some of the suggestions are taken to heart and the communication and that effort is put in, to trickle down into the people or the parents in the community. Also in regards to that early dismissal thing, I'm not a teaching professional, but I see why there would be hesitation from the parent side in regards to this change and it being difficult and there being issues with childcare. I do think more importantly, the decisions need to be made based on what is best for the children, and it seems like our district needs a lot of change that's going to be coming. I think this is probably going to be the first of a few things that are going to happen, hopefully, that we might get pushback from because it's not easy for people. Change oftentimes isn't easy for people. So I hope that we all just keep in mind what's best for the children and the community and make the decisions accordingly. And I do think this is a decision that it would best suit the children and the community if we did the early dismissal.
Thank you.
Jen Norgard, Highland Boundaries. I'm not actually going to talk about Highland. I'm a teacher in a different district. I'm high school, so I understand that you guys you have more concerns with dismissal than our high schoolers do. But as a teacher, as we made adjustments in curriculum for the next gen over the last 4 years, the last 3 years, we've also added that early morning on Wednesdays every week that we have the chance to meet with our teams. And I personally have found it really an invaluable time for us. It's something that I highly encourage, especially, I'm just a science teacher, so we were just changing
Just a science teacher.
I'm not an elementary teacher that's teaching how many subjects, so that's what I mean by that. I regard myself just as high.
Thank you.
But they have a lot on their plates, so I, like others, really support that time. I think that they're going to need it even more than we do, And even now that we're not changing the curriculum, we're just working with what we already have, we're still changing the curriculum. That's what teaching is, that's what learning from each other is the most important piece. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Next is the approval of the minutes. Are there any suggested revisions to the minutes as presented in the packet of materials? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the February 11, 2019 regular meeting as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Melissa, please call roll.
Actually, I think we can do.
Oh, we can do an all in favor. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried to approve the minutes of the February 11, 2019 regular meeting as presented. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the February 19, 2019 board tour and Puffer PTA meeting as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I find these valuable, but after the year goes by, maybe it would be, the rest of the board members, just to get some feedback. Just because we find them valuable, they're not necessarily as much for us as it is for the parents. Do the parents find them valuable? I don't know if we've had feedback or whatever. We're doing this to engage with parents, so if it's working, it'd be nice to know.
Thank you.
And I know that's the approval of the minutes, not really discussing the minutes, but I didn't know where else to interject that.
Well, that's a discussion. Any further discussion? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion carried to approve the minutes of the February 19th, 2019 board tour and Puffer PTA meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the February 25th, 2019 special meeting curriculum workshop as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried to approve the minutes of the February 25th, 2019 special meeting workshop as presented. Next, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the March 5th, 2019 special meeting superintendent search workshop as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried to approve the minutes of the March 5th, 2019 special meeting superintendent search workshop. Next is the approval of the consent agenda. Are there any items a board member would like to have considered separately? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of the personnel report and financial statements consisting of the list of bills and summary as presented in the packet materials?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Melissa, please call roll.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samati.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Doshi.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye, the motion carried. The consent agenda has been approved as presented in the packet materials. Next is items recommended for action. First is the final 2018-19 school calendar and last day of school. Is there a motion to establish the last day of school as June 11th, 2019, and approve the final 2018-19 school calendar as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question about, do we revisit this again if, for some reason, we have emergency days between now and the end of the year?
Curat?
Thanks. It's your fault. You receive all calls from here on out on this issue.
The answer to your question is yes, we would review it if there were a need for an emergency day, and I can remember a time in recent history where we did in fact need to call an emergency day. I think it was April 17th, 2013, when we had to call an emergency day for a flood. Let's hope we don't have to, but yes, we would revisit it if need be. Thank
Is
you.
the intent that if I didn't ask the question, it wouldn't have happened?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I have a lot more questions than that.
Thank you, Karat. Any further discussion? Melissa, please call roll.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samati.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Doshi.
Aye.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye. The motion carried to establish June 11th, 2019 as the last day of school and approve the final 2018-19 school calendar as presented. Next is the 2019-2020 school calendar. Is there a motion to approve the 2019-2020 school calendar as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
You know, I think we've heard from a lot of parents and a lot of community members and a lot of teachers and staff. I just want to reflect with the board. Karan and I had the privilege of being the board representatives at the DGEA Executive Board and Administrative meeting last month, and we really got a chance to observe our teachers and our leadership carefully considering the value of this proposal. And then we heard from Craig and Katie at the curriculum workshop and really following up on the importance of this and publicly advocating for this proposal. And I really appreciate the way Justin and Jane have really dug into. I know we raised a lot of questions last month, and you came back with a lot of answers at the curriculum workshop, and really to help us understand the outcomes of this professional development. And clearly, next year, we're going to have to go back and make sure we're hitting those outcomes. But I feel much better about it, knowing what those outcomes are and what we're trying to achieve. Clearly, this decision is going to have a huge impact on our community, and I wouldn't have felt comfortable supporting the administrative's recommendation if I hadn't heard from our teachers how much it's needed and how much it's going to positively impact our kids. And so that was just something I wanted to share with the board and with the community.
Yeah, and for anybody who comes to this regularly, but the administration specifically knows that over the months of conversation, this is something that was a hard topic for me. I felt like this is a big impact on families in general. I mean, this is going to be something that that I have to figure out as a family personally, right? You know, so it's something I go through. But in the last few weeks, and especially in the last couple of days, I've spoken with a lot of teachers who seem to be very supportive of this, and actually a lot of families in the district as well, that kind of like today, I kind of got a split reaction on it in general, but a lot of positives, and a lot of the pushback that I got was trying to persuade me to change the day of the week. And so apparently every day but Thursday, that was the only one I didn't get a suggestion on, but every other day of the week was recommended to me at some point over the last 2 weeks. So I think ultimately for me, it's really important, I just want to state this, is that just because we decided to do this for the 1920 school year, I don't believe this is a set it and forget it kind of moment. I think that we really need to evaluate and make sure that this works the way that we've intended. I listened to you, Justin, and speak very eloquently about it at the workshop, and I think we've talked about it over the last 2 months, and I think that there's a lot of really, really good potential, and I think that with all of the hard work that we have ahead of us in implementing this curriculum, it is necessary, but I want to make sure that we're revisiting it, making sure that this format works for the actual professional development, that the shift, and I know that when you take 50 minutes and you break it out 10 minutes apart as opposed to a 50-minute block, that looks different, and make sure that it works in the classrooms the way that we expected it to work. Are we seeing some of that relief of using substitute teachers in the classroom? This is the kind of stuff I'm going to be looking to next year to make sure that it is having the intended consequence. Because discussing it with teachers, I'm hearing things like, we are going to see a direct impact on the education that these kids are getting in the classroom consistently, and if that's the case, then I have to support it.
Yeah, I'll just follow what you say. I think my evolution from this was, I think at the beginning, not really being in support of it. I was cautious about the impact on kids with an hour of lost instruction each week. I was concerned about the impact on families, not my own. My family is already in Champion, so I just was worried about how our very large community, which is very diverse in terms of a number of criteria, how they would be impacted by this. And the administration has done a good job of allaying those fears. I think, in general, there was a parent here, and I'd just like to echo what she said. This is what's best for our kids, and we're asking a lot of people. I mean, it's going to cause some people to be significantly inconvenienced. This is what's best for our learners. This is what's best for our staff. We are going to be asking a tremendous amount of our teachers over the next several years in terms of the rollout of various curricula and other initiatives, not just that, but technology and so on and so forth. So if we have if we have heard from the community that our strategic plan is their vision for this district, we need to put this in place. We need to implement this if we're going to have success with raising the rigor in our curriculum and rolling things out and having that alignment. I think it's absolutely necessary. So I am pleased to support this in this final version. But I will also echo what you said, Darren, that the evaluation piece is critical. To your successor, Carrie, I'm going to be looking to see that we are studying the impact of this on our kids in terms of a number of indicators. And this is, like the technology rollout over the summer, this is a significant investment of our resources. Doesn't have as big of a price tag associated with it, but it has the time for our families, and that's something I take very seriously. So I want to make sure that we are listening to staff. Are they finding it meaningful? Is it productive time? Are they feeling like they are growing in their efficacy as educators? Are we seeing walkthrough data in our observations that shows us that yes, they are implementing new procedures, and at the end of the day, over the long term, are we seeing an impact on our outcome data? And that's what I would hope to see to take this, what would be a trial in school year 1920 and continue it further.
Greg, I was with you too, and I've been kicking this around back and forth. I hear both sides, and I'm prepared to be the lone no vote if I feel that's necessary. And then every once in a while I hear something, I'm like, man, it pulled me over here. There haven't been many decisions where I'm not usually pretty clear once I get there. This one I'm a little torn between, and that what I'm afraid of, and what I've heard from parents, and I even heard from somebody that spoke tonight out in the hallway there, is this can't become this after 6 months, oh darn, I'm in another doggone 90-minute meeting. I mean, that's a real easy trap to fall in, and that's not a dig on any staff or anyone. That's just human nature, right? You get in a routine. We got to figure out a way with the teachers' help that it doesn't get routine, so it's not just administrator driven, and make that sure that that's a two-way street. There needs to be some monitoring of it. My bigger operational concern is I'm not real still clear how that middle school's schedule's working out. And I'm not sure we ever really addressed that. But I hear it. This has been a concern, professional development, and then I go back to, okay, what have I said in the past, right? Because God knows people like to throw that back up at you. I've not been a big fan of half days. This does get rid of half days. In general, the amount of time is made up, so we're not necessarily losing classroom time. I understand Mondays. I understand why people like Fridays, the most popular ones I hear. I haven't heard Thursdays either. I don't know what goes on Thursdays, but I don't think anybody cares. They're just like, let's get to the weekend. I understand Fridays, but I also understand, and we maybe didn't publicize this enough, and that's where we got to really have a good communication plan with this, is there are fewer Monday school days than there are Friday school days, so that does help limit early dismissal. We have more Monday holidays. It's just the way it works. I've heard teachers say yes to this. It would be nice, and this is a request, and take it for what it's worth, but it would be nice if the teachers' representatives would come up with some kind of a joint communication saying why they support it, why the board, because most of the people that are saying no, I'm kind of starting to get the impression, and I really didn't start feeling that until recently, that a lot of people in the community think this is another thing the board or administration is jamming down. For some reason, some people just think that, we even heard comments tonight that, it's one more thing for teachers to do. And I'm like, but if the teachers really want this, some kind of a joint team statement, take that for what it's worth, but I think that holds a lot of weight. And I look out there, I'm not saying get up and say anything, I'm just saying if that's something that would be helpful for the community. One of my, one of the constituents that I have to report to even after I'm off the board, my wife had a lot of questions, so, and she had actually a lot of questions on the time I've been on and why we do things, but this one, for some reason, she had a lot of questions about it. And I think it's just because there's a lot of questions in the community. We're running out of time, we gotta pick a schedule, right? We gotta do that. So where I've been kind of streaming as a no vote, even as recently as, an hour ago, Greg, you kind of flipped me a little bit on that, just saying, I get it, and everybody's said things. I do think it's important that when there's things that staff or certain groups, whether, this may be a teacher issue, but if there's other issues, we have a really good track record of representatives speaking publicly about what they dislike. If we could just ask that, this is a great opportunity for us to speak about what we do like. And I know the last curriculum meeting that was there, but it just helps with the community to say that, yes, we are listening. This isn't just John Miller and 6 other board members' idea. It actually wasn't any of our ideas. It was staff and the teachers working together. So I know it's a little long-winded, but I don't know. We've had things where 200 people show up to complain about something. It'd be nice if we had a few more people to show up when they're in support of something and speak about it. Maybe we can offer T-shirts. That seems to work. But, notary services, they seem to have time for that. Anyway, that's a little smart there.
Sean, the only thing I would throw out there, and just to hold you, and one of the things we've talked about all is, one of our goals, and I know one of your goals every year when you look at the calendar, is making sure our kids have quality time with their teachers. And I just think that this will absolutely increase our kids' quality
substitute thing you
time.
talked about, yeah.
Well, it'll give our teachers the chance to improve their practices, so to improve the level of quality instruction that they can provide, but it's also just going to increase the total amount of time and just the time with the teachers. I think there's no getting away from the fact that that's something that every year that I've served on the board with you, that's one of the things we've talked about with the calendar, is we want to and make sure we don't lose that time. I know that was one of your concerns with District 99's calendar changes.
Yeah,
One of the-
99's lost 7 days.
Agreed, but we won't.
So this is-
And that's what's one of
that's
the
the point to
things that
bring out,
make,
is what I'm
to
saying.
really mention on this, is that I think that our administration has really worked really hard to make sure that they can find a way to give the teachers the more professional development that they need without taking away the time that our kids need and really value and spend with their teachers. It really is what's best for the kids and what's best for the teachers. It's not often such a nice balance, right? It's not perfect, and 100% it's not perfect. But if our number one goal is what's best for the kids, what's best for the teachers, and how do we maximize that time together, it does do that.
Yeah, it just make sure that that's in the communication, and the communication beforehand, this kind of came about over a longer period of time, but the plan was a shorter period of time, so it wasn't really kind of put together where everyone agreed. The one question that I've asked twice and was never really publicly answered, and some parents asked it, and a parent in here wrote us a letter. Why can't this be done on non-student time? That question has actually never been answered in public, and I think that deserves a public answer. Why can't, a number of people have asked it, but we've never actually answered. Why can't it be done after school time?
So, and I can address that, and I know we've had conversations about that, John. We have such limited time after students are dismissed for teachers to get together and work together. So if our students are dismissed at 2:55, our staff remain until about 3:45. Many remain into the wee hours of the night and are working on their own plans and evaluating and doing assessments. But our teachers as a whole really have a very limited amount of time. We found that to be really limited for district initiatives. We found it to be really limited for school time. Our principals trying to lead faculty meetings, it turns out to be about 35 minutes at most, and that is with a really efficient dismissal time. So there's just not enough focused time for our faculty and our administrators to work together there. So it really is critical, and we have taken into account, and I want to just, if I could, say a few things.
Please.
First of all, I want to thank my administrative team for all of their hard work on this. This was a vision and something we've been talking about for a while, but we really pushed to make it happen this year, and there's been a ton of work put into this. And also the teachers who have spent a lot of time providing feedback and really helping us to evaluate how we can look at this and how we can accomplish this with as minimal impact on student instructional time as possible. And John, you have said time and again for the last 7 years that I've been working with you that instructional time for students is really critical. And so we took that feedback and really evaluated that to ensure that we weren't having a significant impact on our students' instructional time. And in fact, in many cases, we hope that teachers will be with students even more than they're currently able to do, while at the same time getting the support that they need for curriculum improvements and for professional learning and collaboration. So we also took into account your input on half days. We know that those can be a struggle, and so we also know dismissal at 2 o'clock is going to be a struggle for some families, and we have done as much as we can in front-loading some of our planning around that. At this point, we need a decision to be made so we can then take those next steps to do the next transition supports for our families and for our faculty. That will be really critical. One of those elements is the middle school schedule on Mondays. We know there's work to be done there. We look forward to, and have already assembled a group of teachers and administrators who will be looking at what's the best way to use that time on Mondays to ensure that our students are getting the most high-quality instructional programming every day of the week as we can possibly provide. And so there is work to be done there. But I think it's good work, and we're all really excited about that work ahead of us, and it is time that our teachers need. Many of you have brought up the communication plan, and we've already started to work on that. We've obviously been pushing a ton of information out there, and I appreciate that even on social media. Parents have been able to answer other parents' questions, and I think that's a tribute to much of the information that we've gotten out, but there still is work to do, and explaining the rationale and supporting parents in this transition, supporting teachers in this transition is work that we'll continue to do throughout this year. The other element that we know we need to continue to focus on is how are we evaluating this throughout next year? How are we evaluating this and holding ourselves accountable to ensure that this is really high-quality time for our teachers and our faculty, while at the same time ensuring that there's an impact in a positive way for our students. And so there is work to be done. I think at this point I am really excited that this recommendation is coming before the board. I appreciate not only my team's efforts to put this together, but also the board's careful consideration and input throughout this year and years prior as we've considered a variety of options to support professional learning for our faculty. So I'm really excited about this opportunity that is presented to us tonight and what this will mean for our faculty moving forward. So
I think that joint communication would go a long way to help people understand. Craig, I value your opinion, and I really do. And I think working together on some kind of, we did that with the contract too. We kind of had a joint statement, but this one, just to kind of explain, I'll tell you, I could explain it to 50 parents. All I need is one teacher to explain it to them, and I'm golden, right? So I think it'll just help. Again, my wife was like, "What are you doing?" If she heard it from Mrs. Lyons, a teacher that can do no wrong, man, I'm golden. So for my own household sanity, it would help if she heard it from a teacher.
There's something I want to add on to what you said, Carrie, in terms of, and to answer John's question about the difficulties in squeezing all that professional learning into the 45 minutes in between dismissal and the end of the contract day. One thing that we're going to be asking our teachers to do is travel.
Yeah.
And if you're at a school where there's 2 first grade teachers in a building, you're going to get some pretty good ideas bouncing things off each other. But if you can get together with 10 first grade teachers or more across the district, you're going to get a lot of ideas going across the room. Hey, Mr. Miller, I see that your kids are just knocking out of the park against this standard. What are you doing? And then I'm getting some great ideas from you and Mr. Hughes and Mrs. Monty, and all of a sudden I go back to my classroom and I'm helping my kids grow and achieve in new ways I wasn't doing before, and I'm going to be getting better results. And I think that's just that getting teachers together is going to pay us dividends in the end.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just want that conversation, because those are the questions that are out there. And, we had parents tonight say, hey, take us up on our recommendations, so let's take them up on the recommendations and explain that. I don't often change my mind, but I did on this one.
Thank you, John.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll just, this is just my quick comment, very quick. I mean, this is a big compromise. It's a compromise for our community, our teachers, our administrators, our parents, no question. I think everybody on the board realizes that this is not a decision that's taken lightly, but it is a decision for the greater good. It's the good for developing our teachers, which ultimately pays dividends for our children. So that's where I lay on it. I believe we have a motion and a second, right? Will you please call roll?
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel. Aye. Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye. The motion carried to approve the 2019-20 school calendar as presented. Next is a resolution for honorable dismissal of teachers. Which we discussed a little earlier.
You need to read it and then
Okay.
during discussion.
Pursuant to Section 2412 of the School Code of Illinois, 105 ILCS 524-12, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Downers Grove Grade School District Number 58, DuPage County, Illinois, that the following teachers shall be honorably dismissed at the end of the 2019-20 school year because of the decision of the board to decrease the number of teachers employed. Rachel Bush, Julie Calcagno, Heidi Carlson, Colleen Condon, Aaron Contreras, Amy Cunningham, Nicole D'Angelo, Megan Demore, Julia DeCrane, Lynn Enright, Catherine Gallagher, Max Gilbert, Catherine Corvette, Mindy Gregory, Janet Hecht, Julie Hummel, Randy Kem, Ann Klacknick, Morgan Lanham, Tracy Leach, Megan Linker, Colleen McBrien, Sandra Manizzo, Robin Paniso, Tracy Rasmussen, Jeanette Rochella, Elizabeth Semple, Jill Underwood, Rick Zyman.
Under down.
At this time, I will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution regarding the honorable dismissal of teachers.
Did you miss Jill?
Is it under down or underwood?
Under down.
Jill Underdown.
I thought you said underwood.
I'm sorry, Jill Underdown. Thank you.
And also another correction, it is dismissed at the end of the 2018-19 school year,
Oh.
and not reemployed for the next year.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just simply like to reiterate, and I shared with the board during the superintendent's report, but this is never an easy recommendation to make, especially when you're thinking of these outstanding teachers. It is unfortunately a process we do need to go through. These are teachers who have served our students and our schools really very well, and we look forward to being able to invite them back to serve our students again as soon as we have our registration and enrollment numbers coming in to support their reemployment with our district.
Any further discussion? Okay. Melissa, please call roll.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye, the motion carried to adopt the resolution regarding the honorable dismissal of teachers.
That one is correct.
Next is the honorable dismissal, resolution regarding the honorable dismissal of education support personnel employees pursuant to Section 10-23.5 of the Illinois, or the School Code of Illinois, 105 ILCS 510-23.5. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of Downers Grove Grade School District 58, DuPage County, Illinois, that the following educational support personnel employees shall be honorably dismissed and not reemployed for the 2019-20 school term because of the decision of the board to decrease the number of educational support personnel employees employed. Dima Alradiwa, Sylvia Ankus, Katie Blanchard, Angela Bennick, Lindsay Caputo, Jennifer Sorensic, Brittany Claver, Eric Duda, Sarah Gallo, Michael Garcia, Emily Hart, Gina Hiles, Melissa Hoekstra Hecht, Kimberly Kelly, Maria Kukolski, Robin Lepasic, Crystal Lascola, Beth McIntosh, Colleen McLaughlin, Wendy Murphy, Andrew Reed, Janet Rudolph, Alex Tamanovich, James Visaya, Angelico Villafuerte, Allison Walker, Stephanie Yar. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution regarding honorable dismissal of educational support personnel employees.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
And again, I would simply reiterate, these are staff members who have served our students and our schools very well, and we look forward to being able to recall them and welcome them back to employment once we have our needs established through the enrollment process.
I'll just name that, I know this is my first rodeo, but I believe that there are districts that don't do the out loud reading of names, and there are districts that do, and it's all dependent on the attorney of the district's interpretation of the law.
It's true.
I'd love to just explore and help push our attorney potentially towards a world where we still continue to post this because it's the expected school code, but where we don't publicly list and read names of teachers that we really do believe are doing great things. It's a strange way to position it. If I get dismissed from my job with the intent to be hired back, there isn't an all staff meeting to have that name called. And I think there's an opportunity here for us to either lead other districts towards a vision that doesn't do things like this. It just feels awkward for all of us. It feels awkward for the audience. It's just strange. And so if we can find ways to see if there has been negative repercussion when a district chooses not to do something like this, so that we can either set a new standard, it would be helpful to hear how our attorney interprets that.
Sure. And we have asked our attorney several times, probably annually, about that because it is something that we are very sensitive to as well. The oral recital of the resolution is something that our attorney continues to recommend, but we certainly will again review that and share your concern as well as ours with that.
Thanks.
Jane, is there anything you wanted to add?
No.
Okay. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Melissa, please call roll.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye, the motion carried to adopt a resolution regarding honorable dismissal of educational support personnel employees. Next is a resolution regarding non-reemployment of part-time educational support personnel employees. Pursuant to Section 10-23, Spot 5 of the School Code of Illinois, 105 ILCS 510-23, Spot 5, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Downers Grove Grade School District 58, DuPage County, Illinois, that the following part-time educational support employees shall not be reemployed for the 2019 school year. Lamia Alradawi, April Bizub, Heather Burgess, Maureen Casey, Karen Cronin, Nicole D'Angelo, Stacy Davis, Peggy Delaney, Patricia Figliomeni, Lisa Fulkening, Julia Ferreras, Melissa Herboth, Jennifer Jackson, Jennifer Kane, Jennifer Mazur, Laura Monick, and Marianne Sarno. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution regarding the non-reemployment of part-time educational support personnel employees.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
And again, for our educational support personnel, we need to split out those that are full-time and part-time. So this is a resolution for our part-time employees. And again, we look forward to being able to call them back just as soon as we know our enrollment figures for the upcoming school year.
Okay, Melissa, please call roll.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye, the motion carried to adopt the resolution regarding the non-reemployment of part-time educational support personnel employees. Next is approval of board agreements. Is there a motion to adopt the board agreements dated January 14th, 2019 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is just a reminder, since we had a kind of a month gap from when we had the discussion, this is the agreements that we discussed in our board self-evaluation. This is sort of a documentation of a lot of agreements that we sort of were working under anyway, but this document hadn't been updated in some time, so it was updated. I think everyone's had a lot of time to review it, but if there's any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Okay. Melissa, will you please call roll?
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye, the motion carried to adopt the board agreements dated January 14th, 2019 as presented. Next is the master facility planning proposal, steps 3 through 6. Is there a motion to approve the proposal from White and Company for master facility planning work, steps 3 through 6, for a total cost of $70,000?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Melissa, please call roll.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye. The motion carried to approve the proposal from White and Company for master facility planning work, steps 3 through 6, for a total cost of $70,000. Next is a resolution authorizing the transfer of monies from the working cash fund to the educational fund. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the transfer of monies from the working cash fund to the educational fund in the amount of $7 million?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Melissa, please call roll.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye, the motion carried to adopt the resolution authorizing the transfer of monies from the working cash fund to the educational fund in the amount of $7 million. Next is the amendment of contract with First Student for 2019-20. Is there a motion to approve the increase in driver rates, 4.5%, and extend the contract with First Student for student transportation for 2019-20 as shown in the attached proposed rate?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Melissa, please call roll.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye, the motion carried to approve the increase in driver rates, 4.5%, and extend the contract with First Student for student transportation for the 2019-20 year as shown in the attached proposed rate. Next is a contract for wide area network. Is there a motion to approve a 36-month WAN contract with AT&T for a monthly recurrent cost of $10,939.50 and a total cost of $363,822?
On here it says 393,000.
Yeah, what's the real?
93. Yeah, it's a typo.
Which one is it?
393. 822.
Okay. So, I'll reread the motion. Is there a motion to approve a 36-month WAN contract with AT&T for a monthly recurring cost of $10,939.50 and a total cost of $393,822?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Melissa, please call roll.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
And Member Purcell. I'm sorry.
Aye. Motion carried to approve a 36-month WAN contract with AT&T for a monthly recurring cost of $10,939.50 and a total cost of $393,822. Next is a contract for managed internet service. Is there a motion to approve a 24-month managed internet service contract with AT&T for a monthly recurring cost of $1,661.80 and a total cost of $39,830 $883.20.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Any reason why we do the weigh-in contract and the service contract on different terms, 24 and 36?
The 24 for the managed internet is new. They typically offer them in 36-month increments, but for whatever reason, the 24-month option was presented by AT&T this time, and we elected for that because prices been declining pretty rapidly over the past 5 or 6 years. So it's
Perfect.
wiser to re-up sooner.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Further discussion? Okay, Melissa, please call roll.
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye, the motion carried to approve a 24-month managed internet service contract with AT&T for a monthly recurring cost of $1,661.80 and a total cost of $39,883.20. We have a couple of announcements. Thursday, March 14th at 6 p.m., there will be a closed session for superintendent interviews. Friday, March 15th at 7:30 a.m., there's a legislative breakfast as previously promoted by Member Doshi at O'Neill Middle School. Friday, March 15th at 5 p.m., that is superintendent interviews, another closed session. Sunday, March 17th at 12 p.m. is a superintendent search, closed session at the ASC. Tuesday, March 19th at 7 a.m., the policy committee will meet at the ASC. Wednesday, March 20th at 6 p.m., PTA presidents and administrative meeting at Herrick. Tuesday, April 2nd is election day, and Monday, April 8th at 7 p.m. is a regular board meeting here at Village Hall. The board will now meet in closed session. Is there a motion to move to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district, collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees? I'm looking, okay. Discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, whether for the purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or the semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by Section 206. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Melissa, will you please call roll?
Member Hughes.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Samanti.
Aye.
Member Siegel.
Aye.
Member Joshi.
Aye.
Member Harris.
Aye.
Member Purcell.
Aye. The motion carried. The board will now move into closed session after a short recess. It's 9:29.